Welcome to Verbal Prick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. Now, this is a heavy topic, so we got to jump right into it, and I want you all to follow along and do your research, right? Now, this is coming from one of my subscribers, Helma, Helma. She's like, so what is happening in our world? Question. History tells it all. It's all about infiltration. They're infiltrating, in my humble opinion, it's all about the infiltration of the black woman's productive system to give birth and the fear of a black planet. As you hear Griff and Public Enemy stated in previous times, right? We're going to get into this thing, right? And I'm going to show you why that I stated that it's infiltrating the black woman's reproductive organs of the white supremacist fear of a black planet. And it has an earlier history, which we're going to get into right now. She sent me this link, and it's called Pope's Private Letter Reveals Early Involvement in a Power Struggle, right? And basically, I'll read a little bit for you, and we'll go into the next step, right? This letter concerns the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, also known as the Order of Malta, or the Knights of Malta, right? We're going to, hold on. Okay, the Knights of Malta. The existence of the letter addressed to the papal envoy, Cardinal Raymond Burke, has been the source of much speculation in the media. It is now published for the first time in full and with the Pope's signature, right? Now, this was January 30th, 2019, right? The letter concerns the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, also known as the Order of Malta or the Knights of Malta, originally founded in Jerusalem during the Crusades in 1099. As the name indicates, it has been widely recognized as a sovereign entity in itself, despite theoretically being subject to papal authority as a Catholic institution. But the Knights of Malta is supposed to be a sovereign nation within itself. The reason why the Pope had to take control of it, because they were given condoms in Africa, right? And I want to, okay, look, this ambiguous status cuts to the heart of the dispute as it reached a fever pitch after Pope Francis forced the abdication of Matthew Festing as Prince and Grand Master of the Order in January 2017. A month earlier, Festing had dismissed the Order's Grand Chancellor, Albrecht Freiherr von Baslinger, right? So they Pope let him go because he was giving condoms to women in Africa, right? Now, we're going to get into a little bit more of this and give you the history of the Knights of Malta and show you that they were given their order out of Egypt, right? And show you how with that order coming up out of Egypt, who allowed them to set up their churches in their order, I'm saying from the by studying some of Francis Chris Welsing's work, is that during the wars at that time, they started seeing that, wait a minute, they're conquering some of these black territories, and they're having sex with these black women, but they seeing that the children is not coming out looking like themselves. So they're like, well, we got to do something about it, and the war was on from that point. Let me give you an example. Now we're going to talk about I'm going to read something to you dealing with the Knights of Malta in their start, right? Now, the birth of the order dates back to around 1048. Merchants from the ancient marine republic of Amalfi obtained from the Caliph of Egypt, right? Who was the Caliph of Egypt or the Caliph of Egypt? The authorization to build a church, a church convent and hospital in Jerusalem to care for pilgrims of any religious faith or race, right? Now, this was the reason why the Caliph at the time gave the Knights of Malta permission to build a church, a convent, and a hospital in Jerusalem to care for pilgrims of any religious faith or race, right? Showing you that the black Muslims had control of Jerusalem. They're letting they're working, doing trade with the newly European knights who's coming into play now, and they want to start, establishing themselves. So the ruler, the Sultan at the time, he said, okay, y'all can build these hospitals and your churches and your convents as long as it's for the pilgrims of any religious faith, because religion is religion. Nobody was tripping, because back then you had the Coptics, you had the black Jews, you had black Muslims. It was people of all faith and all races. As long as you do that, then that's fine, right? So this was the start, is what I'm saying. This was the start, and this is how it was supposed to be in time. So by the Pope understanding that, he was like, look, how you giving condoms? You breaking a solid covenant that we had with Egypt and the Sultan that took place, hundreds of years ago. So he had to set him down. But we want to get more into that, right? The Order of St. John of Jerusalem, the monastic community that ran the hospital for the pilgrims in the Holy Land, became independent under the guidance of its founder, the religious brother Jared. With the papal bull dated 15th of February 1113, Pope Pascal II, Pashal, approved the foundation of the hospital and placed it under the aegis of the Holy See, granting it the right to freely elect its superiors without interference from the other secular or religious authorities. By virtue of the papal bull, the hospital became an order exempt from the control of the local church. All the knights were religious bound by the three monastic views of poverty, chastity, and obedience, right? The constitution of the Christian Kingdom of Jerusalem during the Crusades obliged the order to take on the military defense of the sick, the pilgrims, and the captured territories. The order thus added the task of defending the faith to that of its hospitaller mission. As time went on, the order adopted the white 8-pointed cross that is still its symbol today. The 8 points represents the 8 beatitudes that Jesus pronounced in his Sermon on the Mount. Cyprus, when the last Christian stronghold in the Holy Land fell after the siege of Acre in 1292, the order settled first in Cyprus. In 1310, led by Grandmaster Fra Fraquilius de Valorant, the knights regrouped on the island of Rhodes. From there, the defense of the Christian world required the organization of a naval force, so the order built a powerful fleet and sailed the eastern Mediterranean, fighting battles for the sake of Christendom, including crusades in Syria and Egypt. So they fighting these crusades, Syria and Egypt. They taking these women, these children coming out not looking like them. And so the campaign began to sterilize the black woman in fear of a black planet. In the early 14th century, the institutions of the order and the knights who came to Rhodes from every corner of Europe were grouped according to the languages they spoke. The first 7 such groups, languages as tongues from Provence, Auvergne, France, Italy, Aragon, England, Scotland, Ireland, and Germany, became 8 in 1492. 1492, you know, that's when Columbus probably sailed the ocean blue, but I'm saying there's a lot going on around that time period, right? When Castile and Portugal were separated from the language of Aragon, each language included priories or grand priories, bailiwicks, and commanders. The order was governed by its Grand Master, the Prince of Rhodes, and his council. From its beginning, independence from other nations, granted by pontifical charter, and the universal recognized right to maintain and deploy armed forces constituted grounds for the international sovereignty of the order, which minted its own coins and maintained diplomatic relations with other states. The senior position of the order were given to representatives of different languages, right? In 1523, after 6 months of siege and fierce combat against the fleet and army of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, the knights were forced to surrender and left Rhodes with military honors, right? But who gave them that permission, right? That's what we want to know, right? Who gave them the permission to do such things, to set up the church? They just say the caliph out of Rome, right? But we want to give you his name and give you his history of who allowed that to happen, right? It was Nasir el-Dawla ibn Hamdan, right? That was in Arabic, was a descendant of the Hamdanite dynasty, which became a general of the Fatimid Caliphate and served as a governor of Damascus from 1041 to 1048. Succeeded Anishtakin and Disbari. He played a leading role in the civil war of 1067 to 1073 between the Fatimids, Turkish and Nubian troops, as the leader of the former. He was the leader of the Nubian troops because there's history showing that Egypt is just basically set up from, it was Nubia, then Egypt. From the Nubian troops as the leader of the former. In this struggle, he requested the assistance of the Seljuks and even tried to abolish the Fatimid Caliphate, al-Mustanisr, and restore allegiance to the Abbasids. He succeeded in becoming master of Cairo and reduced al-Mustanisr to a powerless puppet, while his Turks plundered the palace and the treasury. His increasingly tyrannical regime led to a split, and he was ousted for a time, but was able to regain control of Cairo in 1071. His rule was ended with the murder of himself and his family in March or April of 1073. Right? Now, the conditions in the country continued until al-Mustanisr called upon the governor of Palestine, Badr al-Jamali, for aid in late 1073. So now we're understanding that Nasir al-Dawla ibn Hamdan, right? He was the one that gave the Knights of Malta the permission to set up their the convent, their churches, hospitals, right, in um, uh, not in Malta, but hold on, let me get that for you, the actual place, so you can all know that place, that name. I'm getting it for you right now. Let me get this name for you guys so you can. Okay, it was in Amalfi, Amalfi, right? It was, Amalfi. She says the first documented tracing the origin of Amalfi, dated from 596, is a letter written by Pope Gregory I when the town was a defense point for the Byzantine Duchy of Naples. Taking advantage of a period of unrest in the region, Amalfi declared itself a republic in 839. This small fishing town was about to take the Mediterranean by storm. By the time the Republic of Pisa, Genoa, and Venice were firmly established, Amalfi traders were already navigating the waters and trading throughout the Mediterranean. At this time, the town's smaller harbor was full of sailing vessels that crisscrossed the sea, reaching ports as far as Egypt, Syria, and Constantinople in the Byzantine Empire. Amalfi had its own gold currency called the Tari, which was used in ports throughout the Mediterranean, Africa, the Greek Empire, and the East. Amalfi's influence on the seas is well documented in the Tabula Amalfitina, or the Amalfi Tables, which established a maritime code that used throughout the Mediterranean until 1570. Amalfi remained a rich and powerful republic until 1073, when it fell under Norman control, right? Power was shifting when the Norman control, or you could say the Norsemen control, the Europeans control. Power was shifting in the Mediterranean to the Republic of Pisa and Genoa, both of which were eager to secure their territory. Amalfi suffered two damaging attacks by the Pisans in 1135 and again 2 years later. Despite these setbacks, Amalfi thrived intellectually and creatively during the 12th and 13th centuries. During this period, Amalfi sailors were among the first to introduce the compass for navigation, which they got from the Moors. The town's impressive Duomo was constructed during the period, including the serene cloister of Paradise, 1268, and the Romanesque Moorish-style Campanile in 1180 and 1276. And that was the Moorish style, right? Now, the Romanesque Moorish style is the Romanesque Segovia, right? Read a little bit about that, because we breaking it down. San Milan was built outside the town in the early 11th century, shortly after the Christian conquest of Segovia in 1088. Saint Emilian of Cagala was a Spanish hermit of the 6th century who was famous for his holiness. The reason why one of the first and largest churches of Segovia was dedicated to him lies in his miraculous intervention in a 939 battle between a Christian army and the Moors of Caliph Rahman III, similar to what Saint James the Apostle did in previous battles. Right? The stout bell tower is dated before the church. It shows features of Moorish architecture, whereas the four apses of the church reflect the new Romanesque style. Right? So it's showing that the statues and structures that the Moors brought, that they call Romanesque, was showing that they was building that in early Rome. Right? Okay. Romanesque is a term coined in the 19th century to indicate the architectural style which prevailed in Western Europe in the 9th and 11th centuries. In the 11th and the 12th centuries. The name means from Rome. From Rome. So they saying that what the Moors brought, part of Spain, some was coming from the region of Rome, right? And that's where that Christian Segovia church was built on Moorish style, right? What are we saying with all this information? What is actually going on? Why did the Pope, right, take over the Knights of Malta after, and it's Pope Francis. Why Pope Francis takes over the Knights of Malta after the condom dispute of giving condoms to Africa, right? What is this? This is their business, right? Why are Africans saying, or why are they saying that they're going to test this COVID-19 vaccine on Africa, and Africa's and the African people are saying don't take that vaccine, right? Why are they saying, which people have documented, that AIDS was created in a laboratory, but they sent it over to Africa, right? I mean, what's going on? Why is Margaret Sanger over Planned Parenthood creating depot shots which were sterilizing black women and setting up shops in minority areas? I mean, what is going on? Why are they saying by 2042 that the majority of the population will be brown, that there'll be less and less white people on the planet? Is there a war going on covertly that we don't know as a people that's being waged upon us, and we're not really getting into the reason why? You know, this is a history that goes back to showing how the Moors, the Sultans, the Muslims allowed the Knights of Malta to set up shop, right, under specific orders. So Pope Francis had to come out and condemn practices that the Knights of Malta was using against Africa based upon the agreement that they signed. I don't want to say that when the changing hands of power, but we did see and promise a 6,000 year rule. So the rule was to come in, but under the agreement was, okay, yeah, you get 6,000, you get your time to rule, but rule justly and fairly, right? But as Sister Helma was saying, it's infiltration. There's a hidden hand. There's a evil spirit in the form of man that was the underbelly that's going on, infiltrating righteous institutions and changing the narrative. So strong leaders, when they catch it, they take it over. So you give Pope Francis a what's up for taking it over to condemn and stop those practices, because they understand the underlying reason on why these things are being done, and they understand the history on what took place and what was actually happening, right? Or the reason why things took place and the reason why it happened, right? You know, so I just wanted you all to understand what's going on, and I appreciate Sister Helma for sending me that information so we can share it with the listeners, right? You know, we giving names. You know, we're showing you what actually took place. You know, showing you what took place in those times, so you can get a grasp of history and know who you are and know why these popes, after Spain fell, they gave the decree to where wherever you go on the planet and their form of Christianity was not established, you had the right to take their land, called them heathens to teach them, or to be the first to teach them a new form of Christianity. Then what comes with that new form of Christianity? A doctrine that's saying Jesus is white. Right? A doctrine that's saying slavery comes into that. A birth control law comes into that. A mindset that was given to black people, but black women in particular, to think in a certain way, to be a part of a society, of white society, after they purposely broke the power of the black man, so that their future and the future of their children would solely be dependent upon white generosity. Right? But that was just for a time, because when the foundation is built on deceitfulness and knowledge comes, people start waking up and they're saying, hey, wait a minute, something is wrong. I've been deceived. You know, what the minister say, his mission was to bring you face to face with Satan. So as Mr. Farrakhan brought us face to face with Satan, we start uncovering the plots and the dirty deeds that was done, and how he disguised himself as a friend, but really was a foe. Right? And so now, with information, we have a choice to make. And that choice is accept your own and be yourself. You don't have to worry about what other people are doing and what other people are thinking and what other people are trying to create for you. Just be yourself, stand on your principles, and build. See, that's why Nick Cannon was attacked after he started calling out the Illuminati, right? Who was the Knights of Malta, the beginning, or they're part of the Illuminati? Did they come out and was like, because he also tied in Francis Chris Welsing's work on how the soldiers, Griff was talking about on Cannon's class, Nick Cannon's show, on how when the soldiers were getting the booty, meaning the prize of war after conquering a place, then the woman was, the gold was part of the booty, where the term come from. And when the children came out not looking like the Caucasians, they said, whoa, we have to do something, because they can use sex organs as a weapon to wipe us out. So plans been into play and been passed down through these secret orders for centuries. All kind of vices and things that were created to slow down the birth rate of the black population and the brown population. All kind of diseases and contraceptives and depot shots and you just condoms sending over. Now they didn't send no water, no clean water. Didn't send food, right? Didn't create plumbing and electricity to run through. No, they sending condoms to Africa. I mean, think about it. It's part of a bigger plan. I always have been. But what I'm saying is, but the start of it started off as being upright, as most things do, until Satan weaves his way in and he turns it around, changes the narrative, and he goes in for the attack. And you have to have watchmen, people that's on board to catch these things and say no, not here, not today. Verpick Radio. Thank you all for listening. Helm, I appreciate the topic on that, and I'm pretty sure there'll be more later, but I just want to touch bases on that to show you how it all ties in together, right? But that there was a us before there was a them, meaning that you got to know the place of which it all started from, or people who was rulers who was allowing certain people to come do certain things under their guise. And then once they worked their way in, the agreement changed, right? The treaties weren't honored anymore, right? And that's why when Malcolm said you've been had, you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled, that's the reason why. Verpick Radio, we're out.